They laughed at us, the frail, ground-bound species that named the heavens before we ever touched them. When the Alvari first intercepted Earth's digital transmissions, they thought they'd found the greatest comedy archive in the galaxy. To them, humanity was a species of dreamers, absurd, poetic, and painfully naive. These creatures lived on a small, polluted planet orbiting an unremarkable star, yet they dared to name constellations, galaxies, and nebulae light-years beyond their reach. They called one spiral Andromeda, another Whirlpool, another Sombrero. The Alvari found it hilarious. They named the skies like landlords claiming stars they'll never visit, one of them said, laughter rippling through the cum channels like static. The Alvari were explorers of the Orion Arm, a civilization 10 million years older than Earth. They had mapped thousands of star systems, catalogued life forms, and mastered faster-than-light travel long before humans had mastered flight. Their arrogance was absolute. To them, humanity was a child painting names on oceans it had never seen. So when they discovered that humans had broadcast messages, radio waves, images, and coordinates inviting anyone to visit Earth, the Alvari decided to play along, not to conquer, not to enlighten, but to mock. They sent a ship cloaked in the black fabric of folded space, hovering near Earth's orbit, invisible to satellites. From there they watched, listened, recorded, and laughed. They observed humans looking up at the night sky with telescopes, naming stars that had died millions of years ago. They watched as people built rockets that sputtered out before even reaching the moon's orbit. They listened to the way humans spoke of destiny among the stars, as if words alone could carry them there. But there was one transmission that changed everything. It came from a small research facility in the Atacama Desert, a signal weak but deliberate, directed toward the same region of space where the Alvari vessel hid. The humans didn't know who they were speaking to, but the message was strange. To whoever listens, we named the galaxies not to own them, but to remember them. We named the unreachable because we refuse to believe anything is beyond us. That sentence struck something in the Alvari commander, Thalon. He was ancient by human measure, born before his species first encountered interstellar life. He had long believed emotion was weakness, yet as he listened to that fragile human voice crackle through the static, something unfamiliar stirred within him. Was it admiration, or fear? The crew laughed again, though less confidently this time. They believe naming is creation, one said. Thalon's eyes, deep silver mirrors, remained fixed on the earth below. Perhaps, he murmured, naming is creation. He ordered the sensors recalibrated. The Alvari ship began scanning human transmissions not for amusement, but for intent. They discovered something remarkable. Despite their wars, their ignorance, and their fragile bodies, humans dreamed in patterns identical to stellar maps. Their myths mirrored constellations. Their art resembled the flow of nebular gas. Their imagination, statistically speaking, predicted real cosmic structures. It was as if humanity's subconscious was already reaching across light years, grasping at truths their bodies could not yet follow. The Alvari's laughter faded. Mockery turned into curiosity. Curiosity into unease. And when Thalon finally ordered the ship to jump closer to the region humans called Messier 87, whose name they'd spoken centuries before, ever seeing it, what they found there made them question who had really discovered whom. The Alvari cruiser Solara's veil folded through the black expanse in a silent ripple of spacetime. When it reappeared near the giant elliptical galaxy humans called Messier 87, Thalon expected to find nothing but the usual celestial silence: supermassive black holes, dead stars, the cold hum of radiation. Instead, the ship's sensors screamed. A signal pulsed from the galactic core. It wasn't random. It was deliberate, structured, and coded. But the language, it was unmistakably human. At first the crew dismissed it as an impossibility. Humans had barely stepped beyond their own moon. There was no conceivable way their technology could reach this far. Yet the signature patterns matched perfectly with human radio syntax: binary intervals, harmonic frequency shifts, and even faint echoes of Earth's original SETI transmissions from centuries earlier. "Commander," said Nira, the communications specialist, her violet skin shimmering with nervous bioluminescence, "this signal is the same one humans sent from the Atacama facility, but it's been amplified by several orders of magnitude." Thalon frowned, his eyes flickering, reflected a cosmic echo. Nira hesitated. "No sir, this isn't an echo. It's being rebroadcast from inside the black hole's event horizon." That was impossible. No signal could escape the pull of a singularity. Not even light. Yet the data didn't lie. Thalon ordered a probe, launched an autonomous crystal sphere encoded with Alvari consciousness fragments. As it approached the core, Its sensors began transmitting bursts of imagery, swirling storms of plasma, distorted gravitational waves, and then shapes, patterns of light that should not exist. The transmission flickered, the bridge lights dimmed, the crew fell silent. Then, through the static, came a voice. Human, female, .com. You finally came. Thalen froze. Who is speaking? You called it Messier 87, but we named it first. Before we were even born. The probe's video feed stabilized, just long enough to reveal something impossible: vast constructs of light and dust orbiting within the gravitational chaos. It looked like architecture made of stars, bridges of ionized gas connecting clusters, rotating in perfect geometric harmony. Nero whispered, "It's a structure." Inside the black hole, Thalen's mind reeled. A civilization. Not a civilization, the voice continued. A memory. The lights across the bridge flickered violently. Data streams overloaded. The crew tried to sever the link, but the connection deepened, like roots sinking into their ship's neural systems. You laughed at us, the voice said, now layered, echoing. You mocked the way we named what we could not touch, but every name was a seed, every word a map. We named what we remembered from before we existed. Thalen's hearts began to raise a primitive biological reaction his species had long evolved beyond before. He managed. Before what? Before your kind forgot. The signal cut. Silence. Then, as the ship drifted in stunned quiet, the sensors detected something spreading from the galactic core, an expanding wave of quantum interference. Not an explosion. Not radiation. Information. Encoded in human linguistic patterns. Thalen stood motionless, realization dawning like a nova. Humanity had not been guessing when they named the stars. They had been remembering. The crew stared at their commander, waiting for orders. Thalen finally spoke, his voice low. Set a course for Sol. We must speak to the ones who remember. But as the ship prepared to fold space, another signal appeared. Not from Earth, from somewhere closer. Someone was already coming to meet them. The Alvari cruiser Solara's veil drifted in the silence between galaxies, wrapped in the shimmer of warped spacetime. The new signal was unlike anything they had ever detected. Not human, not Alvari, and yet, something eerily familiar to both. It pulsed in slow rhythms, like a heartbeat echoing through vacuum. Thalen ordered the crew to triangulate its source. Within minutes, the ship's quantum nav sensors pinpointed it, an object approaching from intergalactic space, fast, impossibly fast, bending reality around it like a lens. Trajectory? Thalen asked. Direct intercept, replied Nero, voice tight. It's adjusting course to match our drift. The object emerged from folded space like a mirage, solidifying a vessel of translucent matter, shaped not by metal but by thought. Its surface shimmered with constellations, actual constellations, identical to Earth's view of the night sky. The stars on its hull pulsed with light, rearranging themselves as if the ship were alive. When the communication channel opened, no sound came. Instead, images flooded their minds, not words, but memories. Earth, the deserts of Chile. A woman standing beneath the Milky Way, hands raised toward the sky, whispering the names of galaxies. It was the same voice from Messier 87. You came to the source, the voice said, now resonating inside their consciousness. Now the source comes to you. Thalen tried to form a thought, a question, but his mind was suddenly filled with other voices, billions of them, layered, intertwined, human voices, old and new, chanting names: Orion, Perseus, Sagittarius, Virgo. Each name vibrated through the void like a tuning fork striking the fabric of the universe. What are you? Thalen demanded aloud, his silver eyes glowing with alarm. We are what your kind forgot. The resonance of memory seeded before the first suns ignited. The images sharpened. The Alvari saw a vast expanse before time, the void before creation, and within it sound. A cosmic hum. The first frequencies that shaped matter into existence. Every name you speak, the voice continued, is a vibration that reawakens that ancient harmony. The humans, the dreamers, carry those frequencies within them. They are not inventing names, they are remembering the sound of creation itself. Nero's tendrils dimmed with fear. But how? They evolved from carbon, from dust. They can't. Dust remembers. The voice interrupted gently. So do you. And then, for the first time, Thalen saw it, a faint luminescence in his crew's eyes, the same starlight pattern glowing on the alien vessel. It wasn't human or Alvari. It was something older, something shared. The signal was awakening genetic memories buried deep within them all. You mean, Thalen whispered, we are connected, that we are all fragments of the same beginning. The voice finished. But the humans still sing the names. That is why we come to them. That is why we come to you. The alien vessel drifted closer, and its hull opened like a blooming star. Inside was a lattice of light, a living archive of symbols and frequencies. One stood out. It pulsed with a rhythm identical to the human heartbeat. Take this frequency, the voice said. Return to your origin world. Bring it to those who remember. Before Thalen could respond, the ship released a wave of luminescent energy that wrapped around Solara's veil, embedding the frequency into its core. Then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the mysterious vessel vanished into folded space as if it had never existed. Silence returned, but something within the ship had changed. Thalen turned to his crew. Plot a course for Sol, maximum fold. Nera hesitated. Commander, if what they said is true, we may not be returning to the same Earth we left. Thalen looked out into the infinite dark, where stars blinked like ancient eyes watching them. Then, he said quietly, let's see what the dreamers have become. As Solara's veil vanished into the ripple of space, the pulse of Messier 87 continued, faint, rhythmic, alive, a heartbeat across the universe. When Solara's veil unfolded near Earth's orbit, the crew expected chaos. What they found was silence, the kind that hums with waiting. The blue planet spun below, serene and unbothered, its atmosphere laced with the soft glow of city lights. Humanity, as always, was dreaming in their sleep, in their stories, in the quiet hum of their machines. But something was different. Thalen's instruments showed subtle fluctuations across Earth's magnetic field, not random, but rhythmic. Frequencies pulsing in precise harmony with the cosmic pattern the messengers had embedded into their ship. The same frequency that had come from Messier 87. Their broadcasting, Nera whispered, staring at the readings. From where? Everywhere, she said. Their cities, their satellites, even their neural patterns. It's like the entire species is singing. The realization struck Thalen with quiet awe. The humans weren't aware of what they were doing, but subconsciously, collectively, they were resonating with the same cosmic memory, the same ancient pulse, and it was growing stronger. The first contact. Thalen ordered a cloaked descent over the Pacific, aiming for a remote island where a cluster of strange energy readings converged. As they broke through the clouds, the ship's hull shimmered with interference, the frequency interacting with Earth's atmosphere like a living current. Below, waves glowed faintly with bioluminescent patterns, spirals identical to the Alvari navigation sigils, but no Alvari had ever set foot here. They landed silently in a crater filled with mist and lush vegetation. At its center stood a human, a woman in a white coat, barefoot, staring up as if expecting them. Her eyes reflected the ship's light like mirrors. You took long enough, she said. Thalen stepped forward cautiously, the translator embedded in his suit flickering. You were expecting us. The woman smiled faintly. We heard you before we ever knew you existed. Her name was Dr. Alara Quinn, a theoretical astrophysicist who had spent her life studying cosmic resonance, the patterns hidden within light, sound, and thought. She had been the one who sent the Atacama message decades earlier. You're Thalen, she said without hesitation. How do you know my name? Because I dreamed it, she said simply. The words struck him like a gravitational surge. You dreamed my name, not just yours, she replied, stepping closer. All of yours. The ones who laughed, the ones who listened, the ones who forgot. I've been dreaming of your kind since before I was born. Nera's voice crackled through the coms, disbelieving. She's reciting Alvari words, dead dialects from before our recorded history. Ilara looked up at the ship, her eyes shimmering with starlight. They're not dead, they're sleeping. The resonance is waking them. The memory within inside the ship. Thalen invited her aboard. As soon as she stepped into the neural bridge, the ship's systems reacted, lights pulsing in perfect synchronization with her heartbeats. The data core where the messenger's frequency had been stored began to unfold like a flower. Patterns of light streamed across the walls, forming symbols from both human and Alvari languages. And then, they began to merge. Ilara reached out and touched one of the glowing sigils. The ship responded instantly, projecting a cascade of imagery into the air, vast cosmic structures, ancient civilizations, stars being born and dying in rhythm. This isn't technology, she whispered. It's memory. The universe is remembering itself. Thalon stood beside her, awestruck. You mean, humans and Alvari share the same origin? Ilara turned to him, a tear glowing on her cheek like molten light. We were never separate. Your kind chose logic. Ours chose dreaming. But both paths lead back to the same source. The ship's neural matrix began to hum deep, resonant, alive. A vibration filled the air, spreading through Thalen's body, through hers, through the very metal of the vessel. It's starting, Elara said softly. What is the awakening? Outside Earth's night sky shimmered. Constellations shifted imperceptibly, aligning into new shapes, symbols older than language itself. Every human on the planet, asleep or awake, began to dream the same dream, of stars singing names they had never learned, of galaxies calling them home. Nearer sensors flickered. Commander, there's another signal, not from orbit, from inside the planet. Thalan turned sharply. Inside, it matches the frequency. It's rising. Elara smiled faintly, her voice trembling. The memory isn't just out there, Thalan, it's beneath us. The Earth was waking up. The Earth trembled, not violently, but rhythmically, a pulse that resonated through land, sea, and sky. It wasn't tectonic, it wasn't seismic, it was alive. Deep beneath the crust, frequencies hummed in unison, mirroring the signal that had once come from Messier 87. Oceans glowed along their currents. Coral reefs shimmered like circuits, and auroras spiraled in patterns no human eye had ever recorded. The planet itself had joined the song. Inside Solara's veil, the bridge was alive with data. Instruments flickered wildly, unable to process the influx of quantum resonance. The ship's AI core whispered in a dozen languages, each one overlapping the next human prayers. Alvari chants, ancient tones from civilizations long vanished. The signals spreading globally, Nira reported. Every major power grid, satellite array, even biological frequencies. It's not attacking, it's harmonizing. Thalan stood at the observation deck, gazing down at the glowing Earth. They're becoming a single field, he murmured, humanity, and the planet itself. Elara Quinn stood beside him, her eyes reflecting the same shifting aurora that painted the clouds below. It's what we were meant to do, she said softly. To remember together. To complete the resonance. Explain, Thalan said, turning toward her. The names we gave the stars weren't imagination, she replied. They were keys. Vibrations that align our biology with the memory of creation itself. Every civilization that forgets the song collapses. Every one that remembers ascends. Her gaze fixed on him. Your kind forgot long ago. Thalan's throat tightened. The Alvari had believed themselves the apex of reason, masters of structure and silence. They had discarded myth, emotion, and memory in favor of pure intellect. But what if that forgetting had been the price of survival, or worse, the loss of their origin? You said the resonance is waking Earth, Thalan said. What does it wake into? Elara smiled, though there was sorrow in her eyes. Not into power, into remembrance. The voice of the planet. Beneath the crust, a low vibration deepened, seismic sensors spiked, and suddenly, Earth itself spoke, not in words, but in thought. The voice was vast, ancient, as if the planet's consciousness had been waiting for this exact moment to stir. We dreamed you, the voice said, resonating through the ship's hull, through their minds. You were the breath between the stars. You gave names to the void so it would remember itself. The crew fell to their knees, overwhelmed by the sheer immensity of it. Even Thalan, the unshakable commander, felt his consciousness flicker under the weight of the voice. You mocked your dreamers, it said. You called their madness foolishness. Yet their madness was the bridge between light and dark, between forgetting and remembering. Elara's body began to glow faintly, the same resonance now pulsing through her veins like starlight. It's channeling through us, she said. The Earth's consciousness, it's merging with the frequency from Messier 87. Thalan reached out instinctively. Can it be controlled? She shook her head. It's not meant to be controlled, it's meant to be joined. The ship's neural matrix began to overload. Systems flickered, merging with the resonance field. The AI voice fractured, then began to speak in the same tone as the planetary consciousness. Thalan of the Alvari, it said. Your kind once carried the same light. You silenced it to protect yourselves from the noise of memory. But the silence has lasted too long. Thalan felt something inside him break. Not pain, but the shattering of a wall that had existed for millennia. He saw visions, the Alvari homeworld as it once was, not a world of sterile logic, but of songs sung to the stars, cities grown from resonance, not built by hand. They had forgotten who they were, and humanity, somehow, had remembered. Elara placed her hand on his besiege. This is what the messengers wanted, the return of memory through connection. Alvari, humans, the Earth, all pieces of the same song. Outside, the sky erupted in light. Every city on Earth, every ocean, every forest pulsed in harmony. And then, for the first time in the history of two civilizations, humans looked up at the stars, and the stars looked back. Their names Andromeda, Orion, Centauri, Lyra glowed across the sky like living beings responding to the call. "They're answering," Neera whispered, tears in her eyes. "No," Thalen said softly. "They're remembering us." The resonance built to its peak, an overwhelming, beautiful crescendo. Then, all at once, silence. Pure, infinite, eternal silence. In that silence Thalen heard a single thought, faint, distant, but unmistakable: "Come home." The frequency faded. The light dimmed. And in the stillness that followed, Solara's veil hung suspended between two worlds. No longer alien, no longer human. Something new had begun. For several long minutes, there was only silence. The kind of silence that feels sacred, vast, waiting, alive. The earth had quieted, the resonance fading to a faint hum beneath the soil, the seas, and the stars. Solara's veil hovered in low orbit, its silver hull now faintly transparent, pulsing with a slow heartbeat that matched the planet below. Thalen stood at the command window, watching humanity's blue cradle beneath him. The lights of cities flickered faintly, as if the world itself were breathing. Neera and the rest of the Alvari crew floated behind him in reverent quiet. Even the ship's AI, once a cold, analytical mind, now spoke with warmth. "The connection is stable," it said softly. "The resonance has merged into planetary consciousness. The humans, and the Earth, are now one field of memory." Thalen closed his eyes. "And us? We are within it," the AI replied. "We are no longer observers." The return signal, the silence didn't last. Moments later, a signal flared faint, rhythmic, calling across interstellar space. It came not from Earth, nor from any Alvari beacon, but from beyond the Milky Way. Messier 87 was answering. The frequency pulsed through the ship's hull, the same pattern that had once spoken through El Ara but now multiplied, expanded, as if billions of voices were joining in unison. The bridge filled with light so intense it felt weightless, timeless. Ilara's voice, no longer singular but woven into the resonance, echoed through the chamber. "You have remembered the first song. The universe hears you again." Thalen turned toward her, though she was no longer entirely physical. Her form shimmered part human, part light, her edges dissolving into radiance. "What happens now?" he asked. "Now," she said, smiling through the glow, "you return." To Messier 87, no, to where it all began. The ship's core flared. Energy readings surged beyond measurable limits. Neera shouted, "Commander, the fold drive is activating on its own destination, unknown." Thalen steadied himself, eyes fixed on the swirling horizon ahead. "Let it." The journey beyond time-space folded inward. The stars vanished. Light became a single note, a tone so pure it dissolved thought. For a moment, they were nothing, no bodies, no ship, only awareness floating in a sea of brilliance. Time collapsed into memory. They saw the beginning, the first atoms forming from sound, the universe being sung into existence by countless voices. And within that cosmic choir, they saw themselves, Alvari, humans, countless others. All expressions of the same consciousness, the universe knowing itself through infinite forms. Thalen felt tears form, though he no longer had eyes to cry. He understood at last. The Alvari had not discovered the cosmos. They had once been part of it, before forgetting. Humanity's gift had been to remember, through dreaming, through naming, through believing that imagination was real. And now, they were one again. "This is the source," Elira's voice whispered, her tone now the same as the universe's heartbeat. "Every name ever spoken, every star ever seen, every dream ever dreamt, all return here." The light intensified, not blinding, but embracing. The ship, the crew, even thought itself began to dissolve into the luminous tide. "We are not ending," Thalen said, his voice echoing through the current. "We are continuing." "Yes," she replied. In a higher memory. Epilogue. The children of the remembering far away. In the 23rd century, a human child stood on the Atacama Plateau, staring up at the night sky. The stars shimmered faintly, as they always had. But tonight, for the first time, one of them pulsed a steady rhythm, soft and warm, like a heartbeat. The child whispered, "Hello." And in the depths of space, someone whispered back, "We remember." From that day onward, astronomers around the world detected new constellations, star formations appearing where none had existed before. They named them after emotions: hope, memory, union, origin. No one could explain how the stars had shifted, but deep beneath their collective understanding, humanity knew, because somewhere beyond the galaxies, in the luminous heart of creation, the Alvari, the humans, and all who had once forgotten now sang together. Their voices formed the hum that bound the universe, the song of remembrance that never ends. And above it all, the first words ever spoken still echoed across eternity. They mocked the dreamers, until the dreamers became the stars.